Chris. Do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself? Give us the thumbnail for the folks who don't know you.
Cool. Yeah.
The three out there. There's probably three.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if you don't know me, use the internet, look me up. No, Chris Valasek. I started off working back in the day at ISS X Force, doing programming and then doing reverse engineering and stuff, and then slowly but surely had a bunch of different gigs and jobs, and was lucky enough in 2012 to link up with Charlie Miller and Mudge, and Mudge was like, "Yeah, we can fund you guys to get cars if you think you can hack them and stuff." And we said, "Yeah." We read these really cool papers from the University of Washington, University of Cal San Diego, and we're kind of inspired and really looked at those papers as inspiration, but they didn't provide enough detail. We're more the type of people. I'm the more type of person just to publish the exploit or the information, and people can figure it out for themselves. And then from there, hack cars when we were plugged into it by figuring out how the CanBus worked and how different parts of modern technology works. And then the retort was, well, they were connected to the car. So took that to heart and figured out a way with Charlie to remotely compromise a Jeep to kind of control every physical aspect of the car. So that's the quick one.
So, I mean, you've probably done this. Tell us a little. I think there was a bunch of stuff in there about you guys actually getting into the guts of the car and getting access to a prototype. That was part of the story for me, is because it was really different. Nobody taken apart and really kind of tried to attach analyzers to the guts of working cars like mechanics. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, it's a hard field to get into because most people have their car and you don't want to rip it to shreds and ruin everything. Lucky for us, we had cars that were bought from DARPA, and we didn't care about these cars. So we would just completely tear apart, not only to, you can get normal access from a diagnostic port, but we also wanted to analyze traffic on, more segregated pieces of the vehicle network and analyze that and figure out how that linked everything together with how the vehicle would work. And, for example, capturing all the traffic for the car parking itself, the Toyota Prius, like that's how we figured out how to control steering, right? So we wrote a bunch of our own software and used these things called ecom cables. I'm sure there's way better tools out now, but that's what we had at the time. And wrote our own software to capture traffic and then replay it, and then wrote our own analyzers to try to figure out which traffic was actual important to us, as in they make the wheel twitch or something like that. So that was a part that was good. So you would go on a mechanic's website and it would tell you in 103 easy steps, here's how to dismantle your dash. And I was like, nah, I just got a Dremel and cut it all open and then ripped everything out because this car, to my knowledge, was going to go back to Mudge at some point, so I didn't care what the condition was.
That's great. So, yes, here let's ask you the geeky questions. What kind of analyzers and what kind of things? I mean, those days CanBus analyzers and things were pretty rudimentary. You can get some fancier tools these days, but you guys said you had to write a lot of your own. Was that one of the big challenges?
Yeah, it wasn't the biggest challenge. It was just time consuming. So we used this thing called an ecom cable, mainly because we could get them relatively inexpensive. I want to say they were a couple $100. So they would sell you one cable for $1,200 that had exposed wires, or they would sell you a cable that had the automotive connector for $200. So we'll just buy the $200 ones and clip the end off and take the wires out ourselves and make an attacher. So that's how we got those, because they were affordable. And then they basically had an API just to read and write CAN frames, and we wrote a bunch of C code. I actually wrote most of the C code on a plane with no internet, and I couldn't look any references up. So I used a method that we used for writing intrusion detection software at ISS, and I basically just wrote a big state machine that would read everything a byte at a time, because I knew I could do that without any references. So that's how we wrote our original code. But then we wrote Python wrappers and all this other stuff to make it easy so we could do different things on the vehicle.
So let's fast forward a little bit. After you guys showed that exploit to a bunch of folks, that's when kind of everybody started pulling out their hair, and you got controlled the steering. So tell us a little bit about the aftermath of all that.
So we're still talking the first one, right? We're talking pre-Jeep. So the pre-Jeep stuff was, I think the computer hacker people were nodding their heads saying like, okay, yeah, we get it. If you can get into the soft inner core, you can make the vehicle do stuff that's pretty wild. The automotive community was a bit more dismissive. They're like, well, they were connected to the vehicle. We make sure you can't hack it remotely. And we're like, oh, yeah? So luckily, IOActive was nice enough to buy us a car that we could hack remotely. And then we did that.
So and then after the light of slow dawning awareness came on everybody, came all the media attention, all this. Give us a little sort of an overview of what happened in the industry after that, which eventually leads up to what folks are going to watch in a few minutes at Pwn to Own competition.
Yeah, I mean, I still think there were a lot of industry people that didn't like it because no one likes their dirty laundry aired in public at the time, and then. The other good part was we would talk to people in the frontline IC workers in the automotive industry, and they'd like, we have budget, we have headcount, like we're being more listened to. So that was really reassuring, is talking to people at almost every manufacturer, and they were pretty enthused that they always said like, yeah, we think if someone could do this remotely, could control the car, and it's nice to have a video reference of that. It's still pretty wild. People reference it all the time. Like I'll be on meetings with people, and they'll ask like, "Oh, do you know the guy that like hacked the Jeep?" I'm like, "Uh-huh, I do." It's like I work with him. It's Charlie. I'm like, "Oh yeah." And then I'm like, "Oh yeah, my name's Chris too. I did that."
Nice. Well, I think actually that stuff's been changed a lot. I mean, Tesla's been super supportive. They're really, really keen on all the stuff they get from Pwn to Own and stuff. I mean, that's kind of turned around night and day from the early days of the car manufacturers. I think some of the other manufacturers are now kind of really putting the gears to the security aspects of it. And with that, we'll close off this particular segment.